Hello friends, and welcome back to today's crochet tutorial. I am very excited to show you how to crochet this bell sleeve knit style sweater in celebration of the first day of fall. And until I learn how to knit, you'll see me doing all of these faux knit stitches that are actually crocheted. I did want to make a quick disclaimer though. I bought an overhead camera mount that came in the mail nearly after this tutorial was all filmed. So I have a very wonky setup for this and I'm super sorry about that, but you all still wanted me to post the tutorial anyway. So here it is, and I hope you all really love it. I am going to start off with a slip knot. I have a 6.5mm hook, which is the hook size that my yarn recommends. And I'm just going to make a length of chains that reaches from the top of my shoulder. Let's say you want it to your hips. Just keep on chaining until you have a chain long enough that reaches the top of your shoulder to your hips. I chained 68. It was way too short. I'm really thankful that the steam blocking helped lengthen it. But yeah, 68 was much too short for me. And then you're going to go ahead after you have your chain amount and you're going to chain one more. So I chained 68 plus 1. And then what you're going to do is in the second chain from your hook, you're going to put a single crochet. And then in the next chain, you're going to put another single crochet, and then you're going to just put one single crochet in every single chain all the way down the chain. And by the end of it, I of course had 68 single crochets total. Once you're done with your single crochets at the end of the row, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work. Now we're going to be doing our knit style stitch. It is called a half double crochet slip stitch in the back loops only. So we're going to yarn over and go into our first single crochet there. Right in the back loop, we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And then we have 3 loops on our hook, and we're going to draw that first loop on the hook through the second and third loops on our hook. And that is how you do a half double crochet slip stitch in the back loops only. So let's do that again. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and draw that first loop on the hook through the second and third loops. And that is all that you do. All down the row, we're just going to do the exact same thing. Yarn over, insert your hook into the back loops only of your stitch. Then we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we're going to draw that first loop on the hook through the second and third. And you're just going to repeat this all the way down, and I'm going to repeat this all the way down my row of single crochets until I have 68 half double crochet slip stitches in total. And here's that stitch again, just one more time. Nice and up close. And then when you get to the final stitch, the 68th stitch in my case, you're going to go under both loops. You know how we've just been doing the back loops? We're going to go under the front and back loop for our final half double crochet slip stitch in both loops. Just like that. And as you can see, a little bump is forming. And that's good, that's what we want. So now we're going to do another row. We're going to chain 2 always at the end of the row, and it doesn't count as a stitch. So in that same stitch that the chain 2 is in, we're going to do our first half double crochet slip stitch in the back loops only. Just repeating the exact same stitch that we just learned. And we're just going to repeat the exact same thing. One of our stitches in every single stitch all the way down the row. And then when we get to the end of the row, we're going to put our stitch under both loops. Right in that last stitch, we're going to do that. As you can see here, we have our little bump forming, and you want to make sure that you're not confusing that for your back loop. So you're going to want to flip your work so you're seeing right above it, just like this. So you can see your 2 little V stitches, and make sure that you're going in the back loop right on top rather than going in that little lump there that we're forming, because that is going to mess up your knit looking stitch if you go into those stitches instead. What we're working on right now is our shoulder panel, so you're going to want to take out your measuring tape and measure your shoulder here. And I measured about 6 inches, so that is what I'm doing. I'm just continuing on with this pattern, the same pattern that we're doing with our half double crochet slip stitch in the back loops only. I'm just going to keep on going until it measures 6 inches wide, and you just keep going until you have however many inches that you need for yours. So I'm just doing 1 half double crochet slip stitch in the back loops only all the way down the row. And then when I get to my final stitch, I'm just going to put my half double crochet slip stitch under both loops, and then I'm going to chain 2, and that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So in that same stitch that I did the chain 2 in, I'm going to put my first half double crochet slip stitch of the row and just keep on going with the same pattern. So you go ahead and do the exact same thing until you have however many inches wide you need for your shoulder panel right here. Also, another thing to take into consideration, as you can see, my neck portion is not very wide. If you want a wider neck, then you just have to crochet fewer rows for your shoulders, and then you just have to crochet more in the middle. So that's definitely dependent on the style that you want for your sweater. So once you have the width that you want for your shoulder panel, we're going to work on the middle part of our sweater. So I'm just taking my stitch markers and I'm going to measure out about 3 inches down from my panel on the opposite side that I ended off on, right here at the end. So I ended off at the top left there, and now I'm going to the right, and I'm going to count 13 stitches in. And in the 14th stitch, I'm going to place my stitch marker in that stitch. I'm just recounting to make sure that I did everything correctly, because I always double check, triple check everything I do. And now I'm just going back over to the left side, rejoining where I left off, and just doing our regular stitch that we have been doing, just doing our chain 2, and then our half double crochet slip stitch in the same stitch that the chain 2 is in, because it doesn't count as a stitch, and just keep on going on until we reach our stitch marker stitch. And then we're just going to put our final half double crochet slip stitch in the space that the stitch marker is in, and we're also going to treat that as our final stitch of the row. So we are going to put our half double crochet slip stitch under both loops rather than just the back loop, because from now on for the middle section, that is going to be our final stitch of the row. So I'm just going to keep on doing my same stitch until I reach my stitch marker. Okay, so we've made it to our final stitch, which is our stitch marker space. We're just going to remove that because we don't need it anymore. And again, we're just going to go under both loops and do our half double crochet slip stitch under the front and back loops. And also, I'm going to grab my measuring tape and show you how many inches here. I did 3 inches down. You might do more, you might do less, but I did 3 inches down to start my middle section. So my shoulder panels are each 3 inches long. Now I'm just going to continue on doing my same stitch and just completely doing the same thing that we did for the shoulder panel, just doing it now in a shorter row for our middle. And I'm going to keep on doing this for 17 rows. My shoulder panel was 25 rows, and now my middle section is going to be 17 rows. So I'm going to continue doing this for 17 rows. I have made it again to the beginning, so don't forget, put your final half double crochet slip stitch under both loops. And there we have our middle also forming, as you can see. And now we're just going to keep on going. Again, I'm going to go on for my 17 rows, and I'll see you when I am done with my rows. Once you have your rows done for the middle, we now need to make our second shoulder panel. And to do this, if you remember from when we did our first shoulder panel, remember we put our stitch marker on the 14th stitch down. So that means we need to add 13 stitches up to make up for our 13 stitches on the other side for our other shoulder panel. So to make that happen, to match on each side, we need to make 13 stitches as well on this side because we had 13 on the other side. So we need to do the exact same thing. So to do that, we are going to chain 13. And if you had 15, then you chain 15. If you had a shorter amount, you can chain however many that you had on the other side. So I had 13 left on the other side, so I am going to go ahead and chain 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Also, you're going to always chain an extra 1 for your turning chain. So I am going to chain 13 plus 1, which is 14 total. But that last chain doesn't count because it is our turning chain. We are not going to go into that chain with a stitch. We're just going to skip that one. So now we are going to skip the first chain and go into the second chain with a half double crochet slip stitch. And in each of our chains that we have, however many you have, I have 13, so I'm going to have 13 half double crochet slip stitches because I'm going to put 1 in each chain all the way down this little extra chain that we've made. So you can go ahead and do the exact same thing, just put 1 half double crochet slip stitch in every single chain. So if you have 15, make sure that you have chained 15 plus 1, and then you're going to put 15 half double crochet slip stitches all the way down your chain of however many along you chained to match your shoulder panel on the other side. Also, I recommend counting them to make sure you have the right amount so you have both shoulder panels even on both sides. And now you're just going to continue down the row just like normal, putting your half double crochet slip stitches in the back loops only, and you're just going to keep repeating this until you get to the end of the row. Put your final half double crochet slip stitch under both loops, chain 2, turn your work, and repeat the exact same thing. And here we have our cute little shoulder panel started. So I have 1 row done and I just need to do 24 more for a total of 25, which is the same amount that I did on the other side. And you might have done less so you have a wider neck, but that is definitely up to you on how many that you did. So I'm just going to keep on going for a total of 25 rows. Just continuing on and doing the exact same thing that we have been doing this whole time. After you're done making your front panel, you're going to completely repeat the exact same thing to make a back panel. And when you're done with both of your panels, you're just going to chain 1, cut your yarn, pull out your hook, and then we're going to work on seaming the 2 together. So right now I'm just whip stitching both of the shoulder panels together. You can use any seaming method that you prefer. I just prefer whip stitching because it is quite flat, and that is usually what I want when I am seaming pieces together. So now I'm just folding it inside out, so the seam part that we just seamed is facing out. And now we're just going to seam up the sides. Again, I used a simple whip stitching to seam up the sides, and you can seam up however far you want to go. I measured down about 5 inches from my shoulder, put a stitch marker there, and I'm just going to seam all the way up till I get to that stitch marker using the same whip stitching, just going back through the stitch on the right side only through both stitches, just as you can see me demonstrating here, and I'm going to do that on this side, and then I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. And once I get to my stitch marker spot, I'm just going to pop it out and put my final whip stitch right there, and then I'm going to go under that loop we just made to secure that in place, and then of course I'm going to weave in the end quite nicely. And now I'm just lining it up on the other side of the sweater panel and just doing the exact same thing evenly on both sides. Once you've seamed up your shoulder panels and sides, you're going to turn it inside out, and we are going to do a simple single crochet border around the neckline and the bottom of the sweater just to give it more of an even edge. So I'm just attaching my yarn anywhere on the back and just putting one single crochet in any available stitch that I have, just tying in my yarn and then inserting my hook, chaining one, and in that same stitch that I am doing the chain one in, I'm going to put a single crochet. And then in the next available stitch, I'm going to put one single crochet, and in the next, just all the way around the neck, and I just repeated this exact same thing for the bottom hem of the sweater. Just one single crochet all the way around in every available stitch that you see, and just making sure that you keep it relatively even so you don't make the stitches bulky. It's just there isn't like a set row to go into, so you kind of have to semi-eyeball it a little bit, but make sure you're not putting too many together or not putting them close enough, because then you'll have some odd gaps. So just do it as even as you can. And after you have both single crochet borders done around the neck and the bottom of the sweater, we are going to start working on our arms. So I'm going to attach my yarn in. You see that spot where we seamed up there, right there? We're going to attach our yarn right in that spot. And again, we're just going to tie it in and then insert our hook. And we're going to be doing treble crochets for our sleeves. So you're going to chain 3 to start. And in that same stitch with the chain 3, you are going to put one treble crochet. And this row is the only one that doesn't, again, have those set stitches to go into. So we are going to eyeball it again in a way. So this is going to be a mesh stitch. So you're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip a stitch. As you can see, there are little lumps that we go into. We're going to skip the first little lump and put our second treble crochet in the next stitch. So we're going to skip a stitch for our chain 1 that we made, and then we're going to chain 1 again, and we're going to skip a stitch again, yarn over twice, go into the next stitch. So we're going to skip a stitch, go into the next with a treble crochet again. And again, we're going to chain 1, treble crochet into the second stitch. So we're going to skip a stitch, go into the next with our next treble crochet. Again, chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next with your next treble crochet, and just repeat this all the way around the armhole until we reach the beginning of the row. So just one treble crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next with a treble crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next with a treble crochet, chain 1, and so on and so forth until you reach the beginning of the row. And here's what the mesh is looking like so far. Now we have reached the beginning of the row again, and we're just going to slip stitch. You know how we had that chain 3 and treble crochet in one stitch? Well, that chain 3 does not count as a stitch, so we're just going to slip stitch into the top of the treble crochet. And after we're done with that, we're going to chain 3 again. And we're going to turn our work. And in the same stitch again that the chain 3 is in, we are going to put our first treble crochet. And now for 8 rows total, I am doing this same treble crochet, chain 1 treble crochet pattern. So this row here that we're doing, I'm going to repeat for a total of 8 rows. So chain 3, turn your work, in the same stitch you're putting 1 treble crochet. And then again you're going to chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and put your next treble crochet in the previous rows, treble crochet right there. Then you're going to again chain 1, treble crochet in the top of the previous rows, treble crochet, and just repeat this all the way around until you get to the beginning. Then you're going to slip stitch into the top of the treble crochet, the first treble crochet that you made. Then you're going to chain 3 again and turn, and that is all you do. I'm doing this until I reach about an inch above my elbow. So for me that was 8 rows. So I'm just going to keep on doing this for 8 rows. You keep on doing it till you get about an inch above your elbow. And now for the next 3 rows, we are going to be chaining 2 in between every treble crochet. So for the next row, for row 9, we're chaining 3, turning our work, again treble crochet in that same stitch, but instead of chaining 1, we're going to chain 2, and that's the only thing that changes, is the amount of chains that we're putting in between. So we're putting 2 chains in between now, and just again putting our treble crochet in the top of the previous row's next treble crochet. We're not skipping any treble crochets, we're just adding to the amount of chains that we're doing to make the bell sleeve, because we want the sleeve to get bigger as we go down, and by adding more chains in between, it's doing a nice gradual widening of our sleeve. So for the next 3 rows, I'm doing chain 2 in between every treble crochet instead of 1. After those 3 rows are done, I'm going to do another 3 rows doing the exact same thing, but instead chaining 3 in between every treble crochet instead of 2. So now for the next 3 rows, I'm going to do 3 chains in between every treble crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And then just continue on doing your treble crochets like normal, but remembering to chain 3 for the next 3 rows. And now for the next 4 rows, I am doing chain 4 in between every treble crochet. Instead of chain 3, I'm going to be chaining 4. And I have semi-long arms, so you might have to make adjustments and do fewer rows than I am doing, but this is just what worked for my sleeve length. So for the next 4 rows, I am doing chain 4 in between every treble crochet. And for our final 2 rows, I'm going to be chaining 5 in between every treble crochet. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So just doing the exact same thing for the final 2 rows, but chaining 5 in between. And then once I'm done with all of my rows, I'm just going to slip stitch into the treble crochet of the first treble crochet of the row. Then I'm going to chain 1, cut my yarn, pull out my hook, and the sweater is finished. It turned out very, very well. I'm really, really happy with it, and I hope you guys liked this tutorial, and let me know if you did. I really liked the different stitch type that I used for the front. It really does look knit to me, and as someone who is trying to learn how to knit soon, it was really fun to get the look of knit while being able to crochet. So Let me know if you liked this tutorial, and if you would like to see more tutorials and more vlogs from me, more crochet vlogs, you can subscribe, like and subscribe for more, and I really hope you guys make this, and if you do, don't forget to tag me. I love seeing the things that you guys make with my patterns. It makes my day. Also, by the next tutorial, I will have my overhead camera situation figured out, so that will definitely be much, much better. Sorry for the weirdness of this tutorial and how it looks a lot different, but I got an overhead camera tripod thing. I'm not quite sure what it's called. Mount, that's the word that I was looking for. Overhead camera mount. So that is definitely going to be a lot better. So also, here's me trying on the sweater. The sleeves are just immaculate. This is my first autumn project, and I'm really happy with how she turned out. So let me know what you think in the comments, and if you like it, and if you're going to make it for your first autumn project. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. As always, thank you so much for being here and for all the love and support on my channel and on my patterns, on the vlogs, on everything. You guys are just amazing, and I love making tutorials for you. So I love you all, and I hope you have a magical first day of autumn. I cannot believe that we are already in the fall. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys have the most perfect day, the most blessed day. Thank you again for being here. Love you guys.